Okay. All right. We call this meeting to order, and we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Carol, can we get roll call, please?
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Clark-Kretz.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Mayor Nicely.
Here. All right. At this time, I wanted to announce that there was no action taken in the closed session, and I'm going to ask for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark-Kretz.
Yes.
Councilmaker Duncan.
Aye.
Mayor Nicely.
Aye. Okay, and we're going to move on to recognitions and proclamations, and Councilmember Baker's going to take on.
Perfect. So I have to say there's a lot of good things that happen in a community, and there's a lot of people that are involved in communities, and they do a lot of heavy lifting. And so over the years I've struggled with how do you recognize these people? And so I couldn't think of a better place for me to start than Gage. Come on up here, buddy. So Gage has been one of the original employees of the Ace Hardware, and it's through his hard work and dedication, I think Greg would agree, that has brought forth some of the success. And so we have a certificate of recognition as you get ready to leave for the Navy. He was, and we'll go over a little bit of what he has done. Gage was the first teenager to receive the keys and the alarm code to the Loomis Ace Hardware. Gage demonstrated passion for his customers, calm under pressure, and product knowledge of the more than 40,000 items in stock at the Loomis Ace Hardware, becoming the first teenager to earn the much coveted red vest. And Gage, like we said, is an original employee. His dedication, hard work, and service with a smile helped launch the Loomis Ace Hardware to become a successful customer service-oriented and friendly local business. Now, therefore, it is hereby proclaimed that the town council of Loomis does hereby express our sincere thanks and gratitude and recognize Gage Dobson for his hard work and dedication and service to the customers of a locally owned Ace Hardware. And it is a big thank you. I'm an avid shopper and have spent a good bit of time with Gage. And I will tell you, you will be missed. Hopefully you won't forget us little people here in Loomis and that you'll come back and see us. But we really appreciate all that you've done, and thank you. Greg, you want to come up? Get in here.
No, you gotta come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. It's not just me. You're the one that gave me the job. Come on.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Mom and Dad, you want to come up? Let's get a picture. Come on. It really is a testament to you guys, the son that you've raised. I mean, he's a good boy. Now a man. Now that he's
he'll
off.
be Navy's boy in about 2-3 weeks.
Yep.
Perfect. Over here. Perfect.
All right, now I'd like to move on to the matters of interest to council members. We have none. I don't have any. And now we'll move to town manager report. Sean?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have just a couple things here if I can find my report. Yeah, feel free to not stay for the boring parts. I won't take offense if you're leaving when I'm talking. It's cool.
Typical Greg.
I just have that effect. I start talking and people walk out. Okay, a couple things. For the November 8th, 2022 general election, we have 3 open council position seats, 2 new and 1 incumbent position. The candidate filing period for that starts on Monday, July 18th, and it closes on Friday, August 12th, 2022. You'll need to contact our Deputy Town Clerk, Carol, for more information on how to pull papers and do that whole process. The other thing I want to let council know is we talked at the last meeting about bringing forward the discussion on the monument sign. I wasn't able to get that done because of stuff happening, and so that'll be coming up at the next agenda. So we'll have that in August. Town sponsored summer swim at Dollar Pool. It's kind of like a little tongue twister there. It's winding down our summer swim days for the town here at the Dollar Pool. We have 2 more days left. The 2 last free days are this Friday and this upcoming Monday. Those are from 1 to 4 p.m. So a free swim at the Dollar Pool this upcoming Friday and this upcoming Monday. Our last summer concert series is also wrapping up. That last concert is going to be on August 12th with Invincible, which I think is it's a Pat Benatar tribute band. We have National Night Out coming up on August 2nd. So the town's going to hold I don't know if this is our first National Night Out, but first in a while for sure. On August 2nd from 6 to 8 p.m.-ish. Deputy Town Clerk Carol Parker has been dealing with that and working to get local public safety providers and participate with local vendors as well. So make sure to come out to that. We have you say that we have the PCSO mounted folks? Yeah. So we'll have the horses here for the Sheriff's Department. Still going with the free compost. We actually had a little bit of a run over the weekend on the free compost, which is sort of good, I guess. So we're going to be getting another shipment or delivery of the compost at the courtyard in the upcoming week or so. So if you were looking for that, that'll be there pretty quickly here. We had somebody pick up, did they get, was it 250, how much did they get? They initially did 50. So they got 50 nut tons. Yeah. So we were able to find somebody who took a bunch of compost off our hands because for a while there we did not have a very good reception on the free compost giveaway. So, but we do have folks coming. Let's see what else. Hidden Grove. So the town staff declared the Hidden Grove application formally complete earlier this month. So that starts the 60-day general plan consistency review process. That's supposed to be done on September 6th. We had a meeting with them today, and it looks like there might be a way for us to extend that because that's in the middle of Labor Day weekend, and obviously staff's not going to be able to be reviewing the general plan consistency during that Labor Day weekend. So that's ongoing process that we'll be following. Town Manager Tuesdays are going to be moving to a quarterly format. So the meetings are going to be held from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. here at the train depot on the 4th Tuesday at the end of each fiscal quarter. So those days are, and this will be up on the calendar and stuff, but it's September 22nd, 27th, December 20th, March 28th, and then June 27th. And then those dates could change if I have a scheduling conflict that I can't control. But these meetings are just a way for me to interact with community members if they have concerns. But doing them monthly, I've had to cancel the past 2 latest ones, and then previous to that, I've had to cancel, I think, 2 others during the year, and it's just becoming a lot for me to try to manage all those. So we're going to move them to quarterly. I still want to be able to do them, but it's just too much to try to do them every month. The last thing I wanted to note is that staff anniversaries for the month of July, we have our finance director, Roger Carroll, who has been here As of July 1st, he started on the first of the fiscal year, of course, as a finance director. Has been here for 24 years. So thank you. Yeah. Roger told me that the last 5 have been his best ever. And then our deputy town clerk, Carol Parker, has been here for 15 years as of July 16th. So congratulations. And then as of July 5th, I've been here for 5. So that's all that I have. I can answer questions if you have questions.
Do we have any stats on how the swim program has been attended?
Roger and the Dolphins will hopefully be able to get us that after.
The only, the report was that the very first one, 30 some odd people were there. The weather was kind of cool the first few weeks. I imagine it was better attended.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to.
Okay. Just wondering from like a marketing standpoint, when we go through it next year, of being able to push that out a little bit harder if.
Anything else?
Do you have anything, Jeff? Oh, I have just a couple. Just to confirm, Hazel's dedication is, the plaque is still coming and will be. It's on order, and just that we haven't forgot, we're going to be
Right.
doing that. And then I also had to cancel my mayor Monday this week, and it was last minute, and I apologize for not getting a notice put on the door, but I think I talked to one person that would, or a couple people, and I think we should possibly, if we have to change that, post it on our website, because
Yeah.
I don't know how else to get that information out if it's something last minute, so.
Yeah, this last time we were able to post it to the website under the, I think it's under the news, I think it was posted under the news section. I do try to do it on Facebook as well. So I'll post it on the town's Facebook page if I can't make it, as soon as I can find out, but.
Okay, and I'll try to do the same. All right, thank you. And now we'll move to the Loomis Library and Community Learning Center Librarians Report.
Good evening, everyone. So I wanted to start out with just some news. We found out recently that Spice Club, which is a group that has been meeting at the library for the last year now, that originated, we came up with the idea at our library. That concept has actually been picked up by the Los Angeles Public Library System, which is very exciting, so making waves. I found out today that the state library will be giving us more parks passes. So those are the passes that we have available for free that will be a day pass into any state park. And they've been very popular, and so I'm not sure how many more we're going to get, but we will be receiving more in the future, which is also very exciting news. Our summer reading program has been a success. We have 327 active participants, and they have logged 94,000 minutes of reading over the last 4 weeks, which is about 1,500 hours, which is just incredible. The last day to log for our summer reading is Saturday. But we are allowing you to claim your prizes, any prizes that you may have, through August 20th. So some events that we have coming up. The 16th, this upcoming Saturday, is a big day. We are going to have the Loomis Basin Historical Society having a pop-up museum for the Heritage Trail, which is an event where all of the local museums have exhibits open on the same day, and you can actually follow and go along. They have a route that you can take to visit each museum, and so our library will be on that route. It should be really interesting, and it will be available during our open hours from 10 to 5 all day. Also on the 16th, we have our origami club. They'll be making hens and chicks. So if anybody has any interest in learning how to make origami hens, come on. And then also on the 16th, we have our final ukulele strum along. We will be making that a regular thing if we decide that there was enough interest in continuing it, but for right now, it is the last one on the schedule. And then our manga club, which we started last month, was a resounding success. So they will be meeting again on the 19th. That's a Tuesday, I believe, off the top of my head, from 4 to 5.
So any kids who are interested in manga are welcome to come and discuss. It's a form of Japanese comic books, basically, that's very popular right now. And then on the 23rd, we have Read to a Dog, which is always a good time. And then, of course, story time every Friday from 10:30 to 11. And then I did want to announce that in August, we will be having a somewhat of a programming break to give our staff a little bit of a chance to breathe and catch up and plan for what comes next. There will be some exceptions. We will still have story time every Friday. We are going to have Manga Club just because we're trying to get it up off the ground. We don't want to cancel it on its third session. And Read to a Dog will still be there. So, but that's all we're going to have in the month of August. That's it.
Thank you, Sarah. Loomis Chamber of Commerce update.
Alrighty, just a couple quick updates. We're working with the chambers, working together with Economic Development Committee for the town of Loomis. We're just beginning a monument design next month, and that monument is going to be on the corner of Sierra College and Taylor Road on the railroad side across from Valley Rock. So we're going to start working on the design, going through that, and then we'll take the next steps once the design is complete. Family Fest has been great, so we've been partnering with Loomis on that. So the last one, like Sean said, is going to be August 12th. We will be having Messi's there serving tacos. Legato Coffee will be there with their coffee stand, and then we also have a new gin distillery coming in to Lincoln, and so they donated gin for the last event, so they'll be there again with us at this next event to talk about their gin and make some fun drinks. We're working on the Eggplant Festival planning, so that is in full swing, coming up October 1st. And then finally, just some events coming up. We're having our next mixer on July 21st at Feathered Nest. And I think that's it. Good. Thanks, guys.
Oh, she has,
I have a question.
Yes.
So monument design, that's intriguing. Can you be a little bit more specific about that?
Yes, so I think 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, the town had worked on a design for a sign that was going to go on that corner. They worked out a lease agreement with the railroad there to lease that space for it. It's been several years since the original design, so we're going to be working with a design company that worked with the town of Colfax, the city of Colfax, on some of their sign designs. So we're not quite sure exactly what it'll be yet, if it'll be a monument welcoming people to the town of Loomis, or if we'll create a sign there where we can also add some banners or change things out. So we're just going to beginning developing that, and there will be meetings that go forward to review that, review multiple designs, and see what we decide with.
Okay, so potential for a possible electronic sign, or is
No.
it just going to be just a regular
It'll
stone?
just be a regular sign, not
Okay.
electronic.
Okay.
There's no electricity out there, so we'll be looking at adding solar to it for any lights, but lights would be the only electronics that would be on that
Okay,
sign.
thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that was 2017 that,
It might have been my first year on council, so that would have
That
been,
would have been a long
7
time
years
ago.
ago.
yeah,
A long time
Yeah.
ago.
but how exciting. All right, thank you, Ashley. Now this is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Does anybody in the audience have public comment on items not on the agenda? I don't see any. How about on Zoom?
So folks on Zoom, if you would like to provide a public comment, you'll need to hit the raise my hand button at the bottom of your screen. So we have Sonia, you're ready to go, just need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Sonia Cutler, 5630 Tudor Way in Loomis. Recently, the Planning Commission went over the capital improvement plan, and there were a lot of different things they're planning for in the next 5 years, I believe. And one of the items that was not included in that plan was anything having to do with the clock tower that is in the parking lot of the train depot. I believe the clock tower was installed about approximately 10 years ago, and it's a four-faced clock. And I believe that shortly after the clock stopped working, that some of the Town of Loomis seal stickers were put on some of the sides. And recently when I was walking through town and noticed the clock tower, it appears that the pedestal that the clock faces sit on top of are starting to peel away the finish on it. And I'm just kind of curious what the status is on the clock tower and why that was not included in the capital improvement plan. And also on the capital improvement plan, going back to the fund for the tree mitigation and using that for the tree pruning in the town. And one of the things that the town engineer stated was that it was the town's policy to first spend down the restricted funds. And I'm just curious when that policy was started, if it was approved by the elected officials, and is it in writing, or was that policy created to spend down the restricted funds, something that was decided by the town staff? Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, Sean?
I can answer the question about the about the clock tower. It does need to be included in the CIP for us to do maintenance on the clock tower. So we'll take a look at that and get it cleaned up as quickly as we can. I noticed the stickers. I know that the stickers are on there. Or I thought that they were just a panel that was put in, but we'll take a look at that and get that resolved. The policy about the spending down restricted funds, is that? You need to use the microphone.
Yeah, that's not an official town policy. It's just kind of industry best practice. I mean, if you have a restricted fund and you can spend it on something, you want to. It reserves your flexibility. You can preserve your general fund. So, but it's not a town policy. It's just kind of general practice.
And the reason that we do that is because we want to protect the general fund as much as we can for emergencies, all kinds of other stuff. And so we in government tend to use those restricted funds first because they're restricted for a reason. And so we need to use the funds for the reason that they're restricted for. We also have Miguel raised his hand. Miguel, go ahead. You just need to unmute.
Okay, thank you. I just have a suggestion. When I drive down Granite Drive and Rockland Road, where the Rockland Library is, they have a sandwich board out there that says library open. And it draws the attention that, hey, the library's open. So I was wondering if there'd be a possibility of getting a signboard that says library open placed on the corner of Horseshoe Bar and Library Drive, so that it'd be in the street and you put it out when the library's open, so the people would know that the library's there and that it's opened. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you, Miguel. Is there anybody else on the Zoom?
Somehow I turned Jean on. Jean, did you have a comment?
No, I didn't know why I was asked to unmute, but I did it. Thank you.
Okay, so I see no more.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the opportunity to comment on the consent calendar. And I see none in the audience. Anybody on Zoom?
Yeah, we have one comment. Oops.
Yeah, I'd like to pull the item on the contract for the tree trimming.
Okay.
And that's number 10. All right, is there anybody else?
We have, hang on. And then we have Gene, go ahead.
Basically, it was the same as Miguel, so that's fine. Thank you.
All right, any others up there?
Nope.
Okay, so now I need a motion to,
I'll make a motion to move items 1 through 9, 11, and 12.
I'll second. Roll call.
Councilmember Baker,
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark Kretz,
Yes.
Mayor Nisley.
Yes.
Okay, Miguel, go ahead.
Right. I have a question and a comment on the $100,000 to trim trees. I did read the ordinance and it does allow you to trim any tree, so I have no question of that. But there's no criteria or specifications as far as what trees they will trim for $100,000. And I'm concerned about that because it's a lot of money. And I would assume there would be a list of streets where the trees are overhanging and they would have bid or would be given the money to trim those trees. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Gene as well. Hang on for a second. And Gene, go ahead.
No. Okay. Yeah, I spoke to you before when this came up to when you were looking at the capital improvements program. And I understand the need for safety to do the work. And I have no objections to spending restricted funds if they're actually for the items that are supposed to be for that fund. And I guess Merrill said to the Planning Commission when this came up that it came from the strategic plan group to use this money. And I wonder if anybody at the time looked at the tree ordinance and what this was supposed to be used for. Or did they just see the word tree fund rather than oak tree preservation fund, and that it had money and decided to see if you can use it. I looked up the ordinance again, and the purpose and intent, quote, of this ordinance is the highest priority of our tree ordinance is to maintain the preservation of existing protected trees. Those are our 3 species of oaks. Quote, the goal of a tree ordinance is to promote a healthy tree canopy. And I look at these and I say, and I was one of the 2 planning commissioners along with Sierra College biology professor that worked on this ordinance for two years. And we never envisioned that this was going to be turning into basically a general fund for doing any old tree work around the town. I look at the capital improvements program, this fund's going to be wiped out in about 3 years, and then you're going to have to take it from general maintenance of the town, which I think it really is. And I don't see that it's preserving oaks at all. And it's even kind of a stretch to me to say, well, you can maintain any old thing as long as it has the label tree fund, when that doesn't seem to me to be the intent of the ordinance at all for using this money.
40 more seconds, okay?
Okay, so basically, I realize that you're probably going to go ahead with this, but I hope that in the future, the council will look carefully at all these uses and any restricted fund before you just grab it and say, oh, well, it's a general purpose kind of thing. We can squeeze the money out, see if it really is restricted and if you're really putting it where it ought to be. So thank you.
Okay, Sean, how do you?
I'll answer Gene's question about whether or not it was discussed during the strategic planning session. It was, council gave direction to go ahead and use that at the strategic planning session. And then also during the CIP discussion at council, it was discussed multiple times in the public. So that's the response to that. And I'll turn it over to Merrill to talk about Miguel's question.
you. So, Miguel, and that's probably an oversight on my part. The original tree contract we awarded in January, and I had an exhibit in there that showed all of the arterial and collector streets, and those were the ones that we were trying to target and prune. We're staying off the residentials. We're just doing the major street corridors, and we got probably about a third of the way through it with the initial 100,000. And so the thought was we would use another 100,000 to keep going. I think a lot of the ones we did do were probably the hardest ones to get done. They were the busier streets with the more intensive traffic control or the denser canopies. So we're hoping that even though we only got a third of the way with the 100, we might get all the way through it with the next 100. And if we get done and don't spend all the money, then we'll close out the contract that way. But the intent also was to keep this thing open for 2 years now, whereas the other one, we had the need to prune trees. This one, we're going to hold it open for 2 years. So there's no new money coming in for tree pruning next year. This 100,000 has to last us for 2 years. And I was somewhat cognizant of respecting the tree fund because it's down to about 300,000. Spending 100 puts it to 200,000, if I remember. And then we're doing adopt an oak tree program initially with a $50,000 of money, but then beyond that, I don't think there's any demands on that fund. So we're trying to be respectful of the amount, and it'll continue to grow with tree mitigation. So
Maybe I have one more. I'm assuming that this is about the tree. Sonia, go ahead.
Hi, Sonia Coupler again. I just like to say that I agree with all of Gene Wilson's statements about the tree mitigation fund. Thank you.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
I have a question, and we probably went over this when we were talking about it during the CIP, but when they're going out there to address the tree trimming and everything, do we have an arborist that goes out and checks the health of the trees along the roadways? Because that was one of my main concerns about, I have 2 oak trees, large oak trees in my backyard, right. And I know that sometimes just from a person like myself looking at a tree, it looks healthy, but I've heard and I've seen branches just fall from a tree. So what are we doing about that as far as along the roadways?
Good question. So West Coast Arborist, who we're using, they actually have arborists on the tree pruning crews. And so they have the ability to do those assessments as they go. Primarily, we're just pruning for clearance, so we don't look at the entire tree. Although we did contract with a professional arborist that's separate from the contractor just to oversee their work and make sure that they were doing it to industry standards. And so we have that resource if there's questions. If there's a couple trees that I know that we removed, and they, same thing, did the assessment, made sure they were bad trees before taking them out. So we look at that as well.
Thanks.
There's one more comment. Cheryl Benson, go ahead.
Jeff Duncan just addressed what I was going to address about the oak trees. One of the concerns I have is we have this big fund for oak trees, and basically we should be taking care of oak trees. Oak trees are very expensive to maintain, and there's a lot of them in the easements of the town of Loomis, and I'm wondering how well they're being taken care of. I mean, my understanding that Oak Tree Mitigation Fund was for oak trees. I didn't know it was for all the trees. So I know they're expensive to take care of, and Jeff and I are on the same strain of what we think. I mean, they have to be taken care of. There's health involved in that. What are you doing about that?
I think you answered that. Yeah, okay.
We're open to ideas on how to spend the money. I mean, maybe with that idea, there's an arborist could offer oak tree consultation services, and that's something that the town, if you have an oak tree and you want it looked at, maybe we could offer a service that pays for that. I mean, those are all good ideas.
All right, is there anybody else out here in the audience that wants? Come on up, Jesse.
Jesse Lunsford, 6133 Smokewood Court. One of the disappointments of being on the general plan committee was when we got to Parks and Rec, we asked for maps of what the easements were in town. We were told there was no map. You had to go street by street to figure out what the easement was on each piece of property. So now we're finding out we do know what the easements are. We're trimming trees. Can we not at least plant trees in those easements? Del Mar was our example coming across the bridge where the trees all overhang. It's a beautiful drive down that road, and that was one of the examples the Park and Rec Committee or the Parks Group spoke of, was we wanted bike trails, we wanted walking paths along the town's right-of-way that were shaded by oak trees. And it died because no one knew where we could get the easement maps of which roads and which streets. And now that we do know them, can we not look at them and say, great, trees can be planted along these routes, along these pathways? Some of the trees are diseased, they're being cut out completely. Can we plant a new tree 5 feet from it? Thank you very much for your time.
So we actually did that. There was a study that was done by, I believe it was Helix, that Mary Beth had done, that looked at all of the town right-of-ways, where those right-of-ways were appropriate to plant oak trees, and which ones weren't. I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head what the conclusion of that is, but there is a report that we did that looked at that. And we have one more on Zoom from Eva. Go ahead.
Just real quick, Eva Marshall, 3367 Kathy Way. What I have recalled discussions over past town council meetings when this fund was established, that it was for the care and preservation of the oak trees. I do not recall it being discussed about non-oaks. So I'm in agreement with Jean and some of the other comments that have been made. From my recollection, it was specifically for our oaks in this area, maintenance and replacement of those that were being moved from developments or whatever. They paid their fees so that those oaks could go somewhere else. That's my comment. Thank you.
All right, so now I bring it back to...
I just wanted to point out something really quickly again. The way that the oak tree ordinance is written says, it's chapter 13.54.100, use of in lieu fees. In lieu fees shall not be used for any other purposes other than for tree planting or propagation, purchasing, maintenance, preservation programs, including but not limited to land purchases and or conservation easements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's an allowable use under the zoning code, which is why we brought it to you and asked you for authority to use it for that purpose. If council directs us to not use it for that purpose, that's fine. We have an ongoing need to fund tree maintenance, though, and we need to look at ways to fund that. So the fact that the restricted fund that is for the oak tree ordinance specifies that it can be used for maintenance is the reason why we brought it to you for maintenance. And it doesn't say it's specific to oak trees.
All right.
So you mentioned the Helix study and that we can do that with the easements when we find out. I mean, what would be the criteria for going along and planting trees on, town property, or if someone wanted to plant a tree along the road?
We don't want people planting trees along the road unless it's a town.
Right.
There's specific areas where they can go. I don't know off the top of my head what those were. I don't remember the result of that study. But from my recollection, there wasn't a whole lot where they could actually be planted, because it's not just there's an open area to plant an oak tree. There has to be like the right, topography or the right soil, all that stuff feeds into it. So I don't remember the end result of the study and how many lane miles or whatever it was, but I don't think it was a lot from what I recall. So,
but if we do take down an oak tree that's diseased, could we replace that same oak tree? Couldn't we do that? I mean, within that area? I don't know what the feasibility of that is. I'm not an arborist or...
Does that have to do with item 10, or is that something we could bring back on another date? It's getting a little, like, just looking at, we're looking at approving a contract And we can, I think, bring something back before council later on that, if that works. Does that work for everybody? Like, I mean,
Well, I see what you're saying, and I agree, but I feel like there's some confusion in terms of what what you were just reading to what Jean was talking about when she started this whole thing.
yeah.
And I feel like the other thing that I'd like to find out too is you were talking about having a oak tree for the people of the town. I think people would be really interested in that. So I don't know. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable now with the way that that's written and the contract coming out of there. So.
Well, I agree that this is a contract for tree maintenance, so this really isn't a forum tonight for conversations about making decisions about other uses. That should certainly come back to the council. There is no question in mind, absolutely clear, unequivocally, it is a permitted use.
Okay.
That was in the ordinance that the council approved, that the planning commission approved, and that the council approved. It's been there for years. It is absolutely an allowed use.
Okay.
And maintenance is, to me, keeping the tree healthy. So that is the goal. And the majority of our trees are oak, to be honest, when you go down the road. So I guess
I move approval of item 10.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark-Kretz.
Yes.
Mayor Nisley.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to business. Greater Sacramento Economic Council presentation.
So this is a presentation that'll be done by the Greater Sacramento Economic Council Executive Vice President, Scott Powell. He's just here to give a presentation on the activities of GSEC, is what we call them in the business. So let me bring this up and then I'll actually hang on here.
I think Control L will give it full screen.
Control L.
I think that's what it is.
Look at that.
I've done that once or twice on
Yeah,
Zoom.
yeah.
All right, Mayor, members of council, good evening. As Town Manager Rabe said, I am Scott Powell. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. So, going to give you guys a little bit overview of what's going on and some of the stuff we're planning for the upcoming year. So, just a reminder for those that aren't familiar, whether they're at home in the TV land sitting behind me or new to council, being we haven't done a lot of these in the past couple years. The Greater Sacramento Economic Council was founded about in 2015 to provide a regional economic development presence to the Greater Sacramento region. So made up of 20 communities, including the town of Loomis, and we're very, very grateful to have you as a member of our organization. And we are solely focused on growing the regional economy through diversifying the regional economy through growing tradable sector jobs. So if you remember back to the Great Recession, this region was one of the last regions to recover, not only in the state of California, but also in the country as well. So the organization was formed to make sure that never happened again. So on the next slide, you'll see that actually, there'll be two slides, but I'll hit this one first. So it is our region is highly interdependent upon each other. So no one community controls more than 25% of the jobs, so people living and working within the community. So, so we talk about the importance of having a regional economy. When one community grows, it benefits us all. So even though a company might come into a Davis or Sacramento or a Loomis or Yuba City, their suppliers, their employees, companies that they rely on are all throughout our community. So we all benefit when our region grows. So really important to keep that in mind as we're focusing on growing the region of how interdependent upon we are. So now next slide. So we were pleased to report as of May that we've recovered all the jobs lost during the pandemic. So we were the 13th community in which to do so. And that's important as you know, if you listen to the talking heads and economists that there's potentially a recession on the horizon. If you haven't recovered your economy, when the next one happens, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, it's going to put you further and further behind, and it's going to make it harder and harder to grow an economy. So being on that cutting edge is very, very important. It validates the work that we've done, and we're really excited that we've gotten ourselves to this point, but good enough is never good enough in our shop. So, but this is a great place for us in which to start, and we're proud of that progress that we've made by really, again, focusing on growing that tradable sector economy. So next slide. So over our 7 years, so we've brought in over 10,000 jobs, supporting another 14,000 jobs through existing businesses and their supplier networks through what's called the multiplier effect. 88 companies, we've got about another 2 or 3, so that'll be in the low to mid 90s here probably in the next 60 days. So having a $130 million fiscal impact to all of our municipal sector, all of our municipal sector members over the past 7 years. So that is going right to the bottom line through that economic activity that translates into tax revenue and then generating an $8.2 billion economic impact. So that is the impact of what these businesses do, their employees, their contractors, and all the money they spend in the region and how much that gets added to that. So very, very important in how in which we grow and think about it and measure this through economic modeling software. So. This has by far been a great 7 years, and as we've wrapped up this year on June 30th, we saw our second best year. So on the next slide, there it is. Over 3,000, 3,000 jobs been created, a massive economic impact, and $143,000 average annual wage. So as you think about supporting Main Street businesses like the Ace Hardware, you've got to have a disposable income to go there to shop and buy whatever you need there from from a Traeger pellet grill or down to screws and washers. You need that disposable income in your economy. So that's very, very important to focusing on that tradable sector. So having, we've had years with more jobs, but we've never had a year with this type of economic impact. And that goes to the wages as well. And again, that regional concerted effort to growing the economy. So, and while we know this has been a banner year, we've got some great things coming in the next few. So, but over the past year, so I'll give you an update on some of the things that we've done through this past year. So on the next slide. We picked up 3 awards from the International Economic Development Council. So IEDC is the worldwide group that kind of standardized the economic development practice. So recognized for 3 programs, 2 golds and 1 bronze. So 2 golds were for our marketing efforts, 1 on a talent attraction and 1 on a video, and then our talent development through our digital upskill was recognized as the 3rd best workforce development program. And being we're not a workforce development organization by nature was something we were very, very proud of, and that really kind of changed our region, our trajectory, and some of the body of work that we'll be advancing in the upcoming year. So on the next slide, for the first time, we actually were able to bring in site consultants. So these are consultants that control between 40 and 50% of any new corporate location. So it's a best practice to bring them into your market so they can put their hands and understand what's going on in your region. Traditionally, you bring in 3 or 4. I told the team I wanted 10, and they brought us 9. We would have had 10th, but one airline wound up canceling a flight, which meant that individual couldn't make it out. We would have had 11, and unfortunately, one of the consultants lost a family member. So we brought out 9. We stratify these groups into an A, B, and C list. They were all A and B listers. So brought out a great group of individuals so they could really learn and experience. One of the key feedback that we got, and this is really what we aim to do, is the greater Sacramento region hasn't traditionally been on our list, and but now understanding and experiencing this will be something I will definitely be putting more forth to our clients. So something that again, we spend a lot of time, energy, and focus on to grow our economy. So when they're thinking about how do I serve my client, we want them to think very highly of not only our organization and our region. So this is one of the tactics that we do. Virtual just doesn't capture it. So doing our next one in November and looking forward to another great group of consultants coming in. Next slide. So another way in which we communicate our messaging is doing marketing campaigns. So At our annual celebration, which I'll touch on in the next couple slides, we launched our Greater Sacramento Momentum campaign. So this is really to educate companies, business influencers, and everybody else of all the wonderful things that are going on in the region and why they can be successful in the Greater Sacramento area when we're constantly dealing with the what's colloquially known in the economic development industry as the ABCs of anywhere but California, of pitching our region as that California option and showing them how you can be comparable to an Austin, a Salt Lake, a Denver, a Phoenix, a Portland, and be more competitive than a Seattle, a Los Angeles, a San Diego, or a San Francisco. So really building that business case, but that is always the inertia we have to overcome. But by being that resource, and this is another tactic on how in which we educate that, those groups to do it. So next slide. Annual celebration. So I think this is how Loomis joined our organization about 3 years ago, was from a little bit of a banter on our annual celebration. So this year, planned it having no idea what we could or couldn't do. So traditionally we do it in December. This year we did it in April over at Drake's in West Sacramento outside. So had over 500 people and did, as you see in the upper right corner, actually did a drone show. So not sure, we only got one complaint of the noise we made, so we're going to work hard to up that for the next year. But not sure how many 911 calls we got about what was going on in the sky. But if you had the opportunity to make it, it was a great opportunity to get together with some of the, some influencers and some wonderful people to, enjoy and celebrate all the great things that are happening in our economy. And then working with the Growth Factory, so a Placer County born and bred Mark Haney. I've yet to meet anybody that doesn't know Mark Haney. I'm sure that person exists. I just haven't come across him in my 3 years here. But them taking Haney Biz and really coming together with some of their partners and creating the Growth Factory. So working closely with them to help them grow and scale, not only their enterprise, but the 15 companies that are in their cohort. So just announced their second cohort. This is a great partnership. We are working with a couple communities to have them grow and support companies that are going in through their cohort, and stay in their community as well to help those companies grow and survive. So we always talk about how we're helping companies come into the region. We work with about 100 businesses a year to help them grow, but then taking another 15 to 30 that the Growth Factory and adding value to help them grow and scale is another very, very important way in which we grow a regional economy as well. And we are just truly blessed to have, the Growth Factory in our region and as an outstanding partner. And as we close it out, so some of the things we'll be focusing on for the next year. So I will have to look off the slide. I don't know this one off the top of my head. So really working with communities that are looking at how are we going to incentivize to compete for these companies. So it's great that we can get them to the table, but figuring out win-win solutions to provide that extra necessary little oomph to get that project over the finish line and get them to grow and scale in the area. Kind of talking about the Growth Factory, how do we continue to grow and support our entrepreneurship base and partnering with other groups, like the Carlson Center, and making sure that we've got a really, really strong ecosystem for companies that can come here to grow and scale. Workforce development, growing equity and skills in our region is going to become more and more important as we compete globally for jobs and investment. And then also looking at development. Our industrial vacancy rate is 3%, which sounds like a great number. It's a really scary number because that means we're going to have a lot of companies that can't stay here, and how those communities that are going to address them not recovering their jobs so far are going to be California-based businesses, as we all know, and we're not immune to it in Sacramento. So coming up with solutions to also be able to keep these companies and then finding new solutions to bring new ones in will be vitally important to the work that we're doing, not only for this year, but for the coming years. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions you might have. Make it easy on me. Oh, exactly. Oh, I'm not complaining at all. No, I will later. Yeah. Take care of me. We're good.
Do you have anything to say?
Oh, I thought you had a question for him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'm so happy to hear you speak about GSEC. I used to be the representative from Loomis. Mayor Nisley is actually now, and I know the staff report might just need to be updated a little bit because it has my name on it. But it was an honor to serve on that board, and it's great to see the work that you're doing, and I can tell you that I hear all the time our area in Loomis is, and, and surrounding and in the basin is where a lot of people want to live, and so that they can work in the greater Sacramento area. So anyway, it was an honor to serve on that board, and I know Mayor Nisley is enjoying that now, so I am.
It was an honor to have you, and we're looking forward to, I believe you just got sat, correct?
At mayor, when I became mayor.
Yeah, so.
And then I just wanted to say that we have used your service, Sean uses your services when we're looking to promote our properties that are out there and those kinds of things, like the WW molding and that kind of thing. So I just want to thank you for your help in that, getting that data for us.
We'll be doing that again, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, we're going to be calling you.
Well, it's our pleasure. At our core, we're a service industry, so we're only as strong as our partners. So, as your staff have, whether it's, Sean or any other department head has a question that we can help out, please let our, we've got a great research team, marketing team as well. So we're at your disposal to help you guys out, to help you grow your economy and, be a better local government to your citizens.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
We do have one public comment for you.
Public comment.
Sonia, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? I just have a question. Does the town of Loomis pay like an annual fee to belong to the Greater Sacramento Economic Council? And if so, how much is it? And then how often does our representative from our council go and interact with that council? Like, do they go to meetings monthly? What's the interaction with that? Thank you.
So we do pay, I think it's $2,800 a year, something like that, $2,900 a year.
That was about 4,000.
Is it 35? So it went up.
It's under 4,000.
Yeah, it's under 4,000. So, and frankly, the analytics that we get from GSAC, paying $4,000 for those analytics by themselves is worth it, because if we pay from somewhere else, that's an expensive thing. So I'll let Mayor Nisley answer the question about the board.
I've only attended one meeting. It was through Zoom. Most of the meetings have been through Zoom, except for this, I guess your April, and then your June. You had an event June, but I was out of town.
So we do 4 board meetings a year. So it's a public-private partnership. So we have 45 CEOs who all send their CEO or their top individual, and then our 20 municipals send their mayor, city manager, or a designated elected official. So given that, we ask them for 16 hours a year. So 4 2-hour board meetings and a board retreat. So
and the board retreat is what I wasn't able to make.
And that was in June, so we'll do the next one in June of next year, and then we will provide other opportunities to engage. So, but we do ask for that, but we also understand that life comes at you fast, and so always opportunities in which to come in and check in. But you got this team has been great supporter. There's a council member, Clark Kretz, who's like mayor, supervisor, I've got to keep switching back and forth, was very, very engaged. So, and we're looking forward to having, the mayor's engagement as well for our next board meeting, I believe is in September.
Right. Okay. Anybody else on the Zoom? Anybody out in the audience?
Miguel, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question. You said the average salary was $114,000 in the region. Does this include like the service industry, the restaurant industry? How did you come up with $114,000 as the average salary?
So that to answer that question, that was $142,000, and those were of the 3,000 jobs. That was the average annual wage from those jobs coming in. So had a very, very unfortunately, this company hasn't announced yet, so I can't share a lot of details because we're still under NDA. But that company's average wage to themselves was I think close to $180,000. So, but that was just the average. I believe the average annual wage throughout the region, including all industries, is about I'm going to say 70,000 off the top of my head, but reserve that. I would want to look that up. But that should be pretty close to what it is for the 6-county region. But what I was referring to was those companies, and we verify that by when the company triggers a locate, they've signed a lease, taken space, we ask them to self-certify how many jobs and what the wage is, and we do the math on top of it. So those aren't numbers we make up. Those are numbers that we get from the companies we work with. And if they can't share that information, then we don't feel comfortable counting it as a locate for our organization.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, I just pulled up the contract with GSEC. It's 2723, so 2,723.
All right. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Nope. All right. Thank
All
you
right.
so
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right. Library Master Gardener MOU.
Thank you. So this is kind of the culmination of about at least a year's worth of work between the UC, University of California Extension, and the local library, our library here, Loomis Library and Community Learning Center, and staff trying to get this agreement done. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Sarah. Sarah's going to do a quick presentation on what the Master Gardeners are proposing. And then I can answer questions about the contract itself. The contract, the MOU, there's an MOU in your packet, memorandum of understanding to basically outline what the responsibilities are of each party, so the town and the Master Gardeners, the UC system, for this demonstration garden that they're proposing to build over at the library. And just for council's kind of information, the library board did vote to support this idea back in October, I believe, and I think that resolution's in your packet as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, and she'll do a real quick presentation because she's the one who's been doing all the work, not me. Let me.
All right, I'm actually going to ask Sandy to come up first. This is Sandy Fitzpatrick.
Hang on. Sorry. I got crossways with my Zoom thing here. There we go. Hang on. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. I could tell. I don't care.
Okay, here we go.
So this is Sandy Fitzpatrick. She's a member of the UC Master Gardeners, and she's just going to give a quick overview of who they are, and very quickly.
Thank you. And then you're going to go into
and
detail.
And then I'm going to go into detail.
That sounds good. Good evening, Mayor Nicely and council members. I'm Sandy Fitzpatrick. I'm the current president of the UC Master Gardeners of Placer County. With me is Mr. Kevin Marini. He's the program manager for our program. Would you wave or stand up or do something? Thank you. So on behalf of the 170 Master Gardeners of Placer County, including a dozen that have a Loomis zip code, we appreciate your consideration of this item. The Placer County Master Gardener Volunteer Program started 39 years ago with the mission that we would extend research-based sustainable gardening and composting information to the public, and do that through various information and education methods. We searched for over a year for a garden site that would meet our criteria, and we're very pleased when this property was suggested. The new Inspiration Garden will contribute to our mission. While we've enjoyed a long-standing relationship with the library and the library staff, this garden will further that partnership. Thank you for your consideration of this resolution, and we are hopeful for votes in the affirmative.
All right. So you can go ahead and move on to the next slide. So just a brief history of how we got here. We've been working with the UC Master Gardeners since the library reopened as the Loomis Library and Community Learning Center. That relationship was well established by the time I started in 2018. So they've helped with our seed library. They help us every few months make sure that those seeds are in there, that they're properly stored, they're properly labeled and restocked. And of course, they give a monthly, at least one monthly program at the library as well. In March of 2021, we were approached about the possibility of having this Inspiration Garden on our grounds. This was about the same time where we were talking with the county about purchasing the building. So we went through that, and then in October of 2021, the library board was approved the resolution that supported the project. And I believe it was after that that we actually closed escrow. And so that's when we started with the MOU. And we've just been, in the meantime, working on the MOU, laying the groundwork, and the Master Gardeners have actually been planning what the garden is going to look like. So on the next slide, you can see, just to orient you a little bit, the white building is the library. And at the top of the screen, that would be Library Drive. And on the left would be the parking lot. So all of the planning, as you can see, is going to be behind the library and sort of around on the Library Drive side of things. We're going to, right now we're doing our story times outside still, mostly, and we do a lot of programming in that area that's on the other side, sort of at the bottom of the screen. So we wanted to save that area for library programming. And we also wanted to keep in mind that hopefully, maybe sometime in the future, we will be expanding the library building, and so we wanted to leave room for those possibilities as well. So in the yellow, those yellow boxes there, that's planned for edible gardens. Blues would be fruit trees and berries. Dark greens are native plants, and then light greens are pollinator plants, and then some of the lighter tones are ornamentals. This is all subject to change. This is just a rough draft, as you will. And we're really excited about the possibility of having outdoor classrooms and gardens that people can walk through and learn while they're coming to the library. And that's all I have. Any questions?
May I make one comment? This would be the first.
You need to come up to the.
My name is Kevin Marini, and I've been the program manager of the Master Gardener program here in Placer County for 20 years. Also a certified arborist and oak expert, by the way. This would be the first and only public garden in Placer County.
So I went to high school with some Rooneys. Are you from the famous Rooney Loomis family?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you have anything?
Oh, we're.
I think
I think this
to
is
questions, and then we'll go to public.
No, I think this is an excellent idea, and it's always nice that Loomis is a trendsetter in Placer County. We don't get enough respect, right?
Especially with our library.
Yeah, especially with our library. Next thing you know, LA will be following us again with a Spice Club.
I just had one question on the table and the memorial that's out there. Where is that going to be moved and changed?
The Master Gardeners have actually met with everybody who is related to the people on the memorials. They plan on keeping that and expanding around it, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that.
The tables too, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the
it
tables
was
as well.
important
Yeah.
that be done. Okay. How about public comment? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said no. I'm sorry.
No problem. So I grew up with my grandpa, and he taught me how to garden when I was a young boy. And this year is our first year with a garden with my son, who is 8. And I will tell you, he spends more time out there making sure his plants are good and safe, and that they're producing the fruits and veggies that they're supposed to. And so I think that this is a great opportunity for our community, not only to learn and grow, but to kind of bring up that next generation of people that are going to grow their own food or have a wonderful, beautiful flower garden or whatever it is. So I think that this is a great opportunity for Loomis and Placer County.
Okay, may I say something? Okay. Yes, I am so excited about this happening, and especially happening here in Loomis, and how wonderful to hear how many Master Gardeners that we have at 95650. That's really, really cool. And again, to kind of go back to our history, and we have beautiful churches where we have beautiful Japanese gardens and vegetable and fruits and all that is the backbone of Loomis. And so I just think it's absolutely appropriate and absolutely wonderful. And thank you for picking Loomis Library to do this.
Yeah. And I'd also like to just include thank you for doing the programming that you've been doing from the very beginning when we became our own library. It's much appreciated. So now I'll open it up to public comment.
You could open it up to folks in the audience first. If anybody has a public comment, you can come up to the All right. On Zoom, we have David Green. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say that I really love the idea of incorporating the public garden at the library. It's a really, really good idea. I'm 100% in support of it. But the plans seem to include a lot of concrete for a garden. And I know you mentioned the plan isn't finalized, but I hope that the garden includes more nature than concrete. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I'm being told there's no concrete. Pathways, but not concrete.
All right. Nobody else?
Nope.
Okay. So I would like to get an emotion.
Move approval.
Second. And a roll call, please.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark Kretz?
Yes.
Councilmember Duncan?
Aye.
Mayor Nisley?
Yes. Item 15, Sierra Christian Church, request for processing general plan land use amendment.
I'm actually going to turn it over to our planning consultant, Anders Hauge, who will give a go through the staff report for you.
Hopefully I can do this as well as Mary Beth, but she couldn't be here tonight. The Sierra Christian Church has made a request to the town to process a general plan land use designation change from residential estate, which is 1 unit per 2.3 acres, to residential high density, which is 10 to 15 units per acre, for the purposes of a affordable senior 62-year-old plus development on their approximately 2-acre project site. This would produce about 70 units. This came before the land use subcommittee in February, and that committee considered this along with other potential land use designation changes, and they felt that this would be best to not go through the general plan update process, but to go directly to the town council and go through that process. So pursuant to the general plan, you first of all are hopefully doing land use designation and amendments through the general plan process. If not, then other processes need to come to the council and get your permission to make the application. So tonight, the resolution is purely to give the Sierra Christian Church the permission to proceed forward with the request to make that land use designation change.
Okay. That makes sense. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have some questions.
Okay.
So we've given as much detail as we have, and given that detail and the decision that we're supposed to make, basically, I just want to make sure that I understand that we're not approving the details of what's in this?
You're not approving anything. All you're saying is that Sierra Christian Church can come forward and make an application to the town for a land use designation change.
Okay.
There's a fair amount of information here, but you're not making a decision. You're just saying, yes, you can come forward and make that application.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that part of that was that they didn't make it into the committee to have that conversation. So this needs to come to us so that you can have a full.
It came to the committee, and it came a little bit late, but it came to the committee, and the committee had a discussion in February that it seemed to make sense, but there was a lot of details that needed to be worked out, and they weren't ready to take action on making that part of the general plan update. They requested that it comes to the town.
Right. So more discussion can be done.
So more discussion, because we began discussing the various ways this could occur within the town of Loomis on church properties for affordable housing. Land use designation change may not be the only way that this can be accomplished. So it is to allow the town to have that greater discussion.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Anybody out in the audience?
Hi, my name is Adrian Giordano. I live on Rutherford Canyon Road. My discussion tonight is about procedure and the general plans. I live very close, about a half mile, to this proposed development. And what happens to this piece of property affects both me and my neighbors. I chose the town of Loomis because it does have a more rural development, and the 20-year general plan did not allow for what seems to be possibly happening right now. Tonight, the town of Loomis is considering a change, as he just said, from 1 dwelling unit per 2.3 acres to 15 dwelling units per acre. Now, that happened in Rockland, but I expected more when I chose to invest in the town of Loomis. I understand the developers have a right to bypass our current process and come straight to the council if they can propose community-wide public benefits. But my question is really, have they? Not in my mind, and certainly not at this location. I am not opposed to senior housing. I'm not opposed to fixing up the Head Start building, and I'm not opposed to any sort of rebuilding of the church there. But I am opposed to a new multi-building, high-density apartment development complex going up a half a mile away that would severely impact my home and neighborhood. My property value will definitely decrease. Regardless if they are 1 or 2 story in height, the lights, the buildings, the noise, these are not all negative aspects for me and my neighbors. Had I known the town of Loomis would consider allowing high-density buildings so close to my home, I never would have purchased the property I did. No general plan places high-density home sites on the outskirts of town near to home properties with 4.5-acre lots. So that's not a plan to me. That's somebody allowing a plan to proceed because it sounds beneficial for the community, but in reality, it's damaging the homeowners who live nearby or travel along Rockland Road. I have confidence the town of Loomis can develop a plan where senior housing may be built in an appropriate location where home and property values are not affected. I'm here tonight because the town should realize that this proposed change in the general plan is not good or beneficial for everyone. Please do not amend the general plan to allow this project to continue. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else out in the audience?
I understand our hands are tied by the state of California. We have to do affordable housing. We have no choice. Senior housing is the best choice. They're taking away our mitigation rights for parks, roads, and parking. Senior housing is the best that you can do as far as taking away park space, roads, and parking space. I think the plan needs to go forward so we can see some more details. We can see some more drawings of whether it's 2-story, 1-story, how it lays out across the church property, traffic studies, the whole 9 yards. So I would like to see it go forward with some more details. Thank you much for your time.
I don't see anybody else. Is there anybody on Zoom?
It doesn't look like it.
All right.
Can I make a clarification since we're, I just want to make it. Was there? Was it Miguel? Miguel, I don't know if you raised your hand or not, but I'm going to give you a shot.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. There's many sites in Loomis where affordable senior housing could be built. One is next to the church on King Road. This site is in what has been historically the agricultural part of Loomis. And to put this high density into this site is not appropriate and is really against the historical values that this town holds. By approving this request, you're basically saying to the people, go ahead, spend a lot of money to develop this plan. And this is not the right location. Around it is all rural country properties. Yes, I agree we need senior housing, but there are other sites in Loomis, and I mentioned one. There's been other churches that have possibly requested to be allowed to build senior housing. So I feel that this is not a good site at all for senior housing, especially at this density, and would want to save the church a lot of money by having you deny this request. Thank you.
I think you said you had something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it really clear that the action before councils tonight is not approving anything. It's only authorizing the submission of an application for a general plan amendment. Once we move forward, if the council moves forward with approving the ability to submit the application, there's a long process that has to go forward, right? So public notices, public comment period, looking at CEQA impacts, California Environmental Quality Act impacts, traffic study, all that stuff needs to be done before it even goes to the Planning Commission and then to the council. So this is the first step that's required by our general plan and by our code to say, council, is it okay for these folks to submit an application? But you're not approving a project and you're not saying, we think it's a good project or a bad project. You're only saying it's okay to submit the application. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Okay.
That was my clarification that I was seeking. I do think that that's kind of a interesting part of our code, that you have to ask permission to do something with a piece of property that you own. I mean, so we've run across this a few times, and really what this is just like Sean said, this is allowing somebody to step forward, and if they would like to spend their money on putting forward a project that is their prerogative, that's their property. So I'm fine with it.
Okay, do you want to?
So we closed public comment. If you want to allow Hans to speak, it's up to Mayor to what you want to do. But we did close public comment and move it back to council for discussion.
I think we should let him go ahead and say something.
Hans, go ahead. You just need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. I live in 5511 Sable Ridge Court, and I hear, Sean, I hear your point that this is part of the process. I'm just feel a little bit like a burnt child, that once things get through that first stage, it seems to be, at least it feels like a foregone conclusion, everything else will be approved. The reason why I say I feel like a burnt child is the location for the planned development, pretty much opposite of that senior home, corner Barton and Rockland Road, called Strawberry Patch, where no zoning plan has been approved that would allow any of that. It's still in the planning process, and still in all of the meetings, it feels like this thing has already been approved, and it's 1 acre lots, and the school is there, and we're getting more and more down the road, and at some point in time, it feels like it can't be stopped anymore. I understand the process, but the feeling is a different one. And I think that's a similar thing that Miguel also raised. And I have heard that from a number of other people in the area. So I'm worried about getting the train started in a way that doesn't follow the process at all. The planning committee had set its deadline and it's all over. And the town council wants to reopen that now again and let it go. And I just feel that the next consequence will be, well, we have gone through all of this one, so let's change the zoning plan as a consequence automatically also, and let's give the building permit. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean, I can't talk here. Thanks. Sean, can you, it seems to me that we've had this decision before, and I just want to let the people know that the last time I think it came before us, and we went ahead and approved it, but that project did not go
Right,
forward.
yeah, that's right. It didn't go forward. And, you know, this is the reason we've had this discussion twice since I've been here now about I've never seen this in anybody's general plan or anybody's municipal code in another city ever. It's a strange thing to have in the code. The general plan committee's talked about it, and it'll be removed in the next general plan, and that'll follow through the next zoning code. But the fact is that we have it now, and which puts council in a position to either say, yes, you can submit an application or not. And I understand 100% Hans' concern, and I get that, but the requirement of our code and our general plan is that they, if you want to seek a general plan amendment outside of the general plan update process, then you go through this first.
So this is the process.
This is the process that we have to follow according. You can say no, you don't have to say yes, but this is the process that's outlined in our general plan and our zoning.
But what I want to be clear on is when somebody says you're not following the process, this is the process that is outlined in our code, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And just to reiterate, we are not approving this project. We are only approving them to apply.
That's it.
So none of us are in any type of form or ready to say yes or no on what it is, so.
Right.
Yeah, and for myself, I'd like to see what it looks like, because I know everybody has that sentiment that, no, I don't have anything against seniors or older people, or, they just don't want it close to where they're at. And I know I've heard people say, well, this is out in the country. Well, I don't know if you've been on Rockland Road lately, but there's quite the apartment complex that has existed for about 40 years. And now they're adding on, in Rockland to that apartment complex. My older brother's lived in this county up in Newcastle for 50 years. He has 3 acres. He's unable to take care of that anymore. Right now, his option is basically to go to Roseville. He'd like to stay as close to his home base as possible. I'd like to have him have that possibility that he could stay in this area. So I'd like to see what this project looks like, when they work out the details. This is just a preliminary. As everyone said, this is a process that we're going through. And I'd like to, have that discussion maybe at a later time. But right now, as Brian said, I don't see anything wrong with a property owner coming up forward and saying, here, this is my idea. What do you think about it? And then having a discussion with the community about that idea. That's all I got to say.
Right.
You ready to entertain a motion?
I am.
I'll move staff recommended action.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark Kretz?
Yes.
Mayor Nisley?
Yes. All right. Council committee reports. Do you have?
The only thing that I have out of PCTPA is Executive Director Lucan announced his retirement, so we'll be working through the recruitment process to find a new executive director.
Oh, and I just have, in regard to LAFCO, and in our previous conversation, there was, with the joint meeting with the Planning Commission and us, there was conversation on having a presentation, and that Michelle has agreed to do that. So I don't know how you'll want to go forward with that, but if you... Either for August or September, and then and invite the Planning Commission to, or...
My druthers would be to have it be at a council meeting and have her do a presentation to council. The planning commissioners can obviously watch either on Zoom or on YouTube or whatever, but I think the better forum would be at the council rather than at the planning commission.
Okay. And she also sent a presentation that I believe you were on the email. Would you be able to send that out to
Sure.
everybody?
Yep.
So
No
they
problem.
can look at it on their own until we have that presentation?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. That's all I have. So, adjourn.